We're going to continue to discuss great things to watch. I recently had the opportunity to speak with Soledad O'Brien. She's got an incredible, intriguing documentary coming up called Who Killed My Son? She returns to her investigative roots and really digs into this incredible, heartbreaking, but really sad story about a boy and his mom and how they fight for justice. Let's take a look. Journalist Soledad O'Brien is returning to television and her investigative roots in her new Discovery Plus special, Who Killed My Son? She's here speaking with us today about this. Thank you so much, Soledad, for joining us on Park City Television.
Thank you for having me.
So, Soledad, tell me more about this case and what intrigues you about it.
Yeah, the case is in some ways a straightforward murder case. A young man, Praveen Verghese, goes to a house party in Carbondale, Illinois, never seen alive again. I think what made me so interested in this case is that it was really up to his mother to follow up and force both police and investigators and eventually prosecutors to do their jobs, because at every turn, they don't seem all that interested in trying to figure out who killed Lovely. That's the name of the mom who killed Lovely's son. And so I was interested in this case because, one, I think the mother as a driving force to solve a crime was amazing. Her name is Lovely, but she's more like a pit bull. She connects with a local radio host, and together these two women just refuse to take no for an answer. And they're also forced to dig up evidence, to get their own investigator, to do their own autopsy. At every step, it seems like an obstacle. And then the other thing that I found so compelling was that for some reason, the family started rolling on videotape about 3 months after Praveen's body was found. And so much of what happened, we were able to use in our documentary because they had been keeping a record of it. They'd been recording for so long. And as a producer, that was just a treasure trove, if you will, of content that allowed us to tell the story better.
You're right. It's an intriguing, heartbreaking case. And this mother, her vulnerability, heartbreak, it comes across so much in this documentary. But also, you're right, her ability to work through that grief and fight for what's right is very striking.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing. I think of these two ladies, both Lovely and Monica. I mean, talk about being misnamed, because as much as Lovely, she's really not when it comes to pushing to get what she wants. I remember, at one point when they find the body, the police's story is like, well, I guess, your son must have wandered off into the cold and got disoriented and died of exposure. And Lovely's a nurse, and she's like, look at his face. He's got bruises. I mean, this is signs of a fight. Again, having to push investigators to actually remember that they had interviewed a young guy who said that Praveen had been in his car and that they had fought in his car. Yet that young man was not a suspect immediately. Well, why not? And so it really was up to this grieving mother at every step to pull the dots, connect the dots and make investigators in many ways move forward with their case.
Well, I'm glad you bring up that point at the beginning where she realized this wasn't accidental, because that is another twist. Yet at the beginning, where initially law enforcement basically dismissed it as an accidental death. At every step, honestly, at every step, they're sort of, at one point they start blaming the victim. Well, he was doing drugs, maybe he was drinking, maybe, as if somehow he's responsible for his own death. I think that spurred on Monica and Lovely, really, when they would face a challenge. I think they were so upset and annoyed by that it made them actually work harder to force the investigators and eventually their own investigator and eventually the special prosecutor who gets assigned to the case. I think it made them work harder. And it seems that right now people are so interested in true crime. It's having this moment. What is it about this case, after people watch this two-part documentary, that you think will really stick with individuals? And what do you hope will be that lasting message from this?
Yeah, I think people, me included, I think we love true crime. And I think it predates the pandemic. Some people think it's, because we're at home. And I don't think it's that. I think true crime was very was really resonating with people before the pandemic. I think for me, it's very much that you get to take a case and try to unravel it yourself and try to understand. The evidence is given out in little bits, and you try to work to connect the dots. As you watch on television, investigators are trying to connect the dots, or in our case, Lovely is trying to connect the dots along with Monica and solve a crime. So I think that everybody likes a puzzle. In this case, there's a tremendous twist at the end, so the puzzle continues to be a puzzle. But I think everybody just likes a fascinating story that's well told.
Absolutely. And we are out of time, unfortunately. But Soledad, do you think you will do more of these documentaries in the future?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As long as we have a great story to tell and access to people who can talk about it, 100%.
Looking forward to it. I highly recommend Who Killed My Son. It streams exclusively on Discovery Plus. Thank you so much, Soledad O'Brien, for bringing this story to our attention and for speaking with us here today.
You bet.